There are new hopes for a ceasefire in Gaza after Hamas claims it has a, quote, positive response to a proposal for a 60-day ceasefire with Israel in Gaza. Stephanie Bennett is live with the latest. Hello, Stephanie.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, well, the proposal, as well as the 60-day ceasefire, also includes the release of all the remaining hostages. Now, it was presented by President Donald Trump, who has been pushing this hard to make a deal, especially ahead of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the White House next week.
I think they're going to be positive about it. We have to get it over with. Hamas we have to get it over with. We have to do something about Gaza. We've been doing it. You know, we're sending a lot of aid, a lot of money and a lot of aid.
And this morning, smoke was seen rising over Gaza. An Egyptian security official told Reuters that Egypt, who along with Qatar is mediating ceasefire efforts, had seen Hamas's response and said it includes positive signs that an agreement is near, but there are some demands from Hamas that need to be worked on. Changes reportedly include issues around humanitarian aid, the status of the IDF inside Gaza, and the language around guarantees beyond a 60-day ceasefire. Netanyahu has repeatedly said Hamas must be destroyed and the war won't end until all the hostages are released. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, families gathered outside the U.S. Embassy on the 4th of July, urging for both sides to make a deal.
We are in an historic window of opportunity. The leader who achieved a ceasefire with Iran can also deliver the deal of all deals in Gaza. This is our moment. The families are waiting. The 50 hostages are waiting. Please, please don't let this opportunity slip away.
Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes killed more than a dozen in Gaza yesterday, and new this afternoon, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said 2 American aid workers have suffered non-life-threatening injuries in a grenade attack at a food distribution site. We're getting more details, but the U.S. and Israeli-backed organization said in a statement that they are in stable condition. President Trump said last week that he will be very firm with Benjamin Netanyahu and for the need for a speedy ceasefire when the pair meet next week. Mike.
Stephanie Bennett reporting live. Stephanie, thanks a lot. For more on this, let's bring in Fox News contributor and former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman. Dan, welcome.
Welcome. Good to see you.
So Hamas says it had a, quote, positive response to a 60-day ceasefire deal with Israel. What's your assessment of that?
Well, it's certainly possible that we'll get a 60-day ceasefire, Mike, but the long-term contentious issues remain. Hamas wants Israel out of Gaza. They want Israeli military to withdraw fully, and they want a permanent ceasefire. Israel has decapitated Hamas leadership and severely degraded Hamas military capabilities, but not to the point where I think Israel is comfortable leaving Gaza to its own devices. And beyond that, the larger question, the day after, what sort of a governing body takes over in Gaza? That is a key question, whether we can drive a wedge between irreconcilable Hamas terrorists and their supporters and the bulk of the civilian population, which has been suffering as a result of Hamas' brutal attack on Israel back on October 7, 2023.
President Trump met privately with the Saudi defense minister this week, which was kept very quiet. My colleague Lucas Tomlinson asked the president about that meeting last night. Let's play it.
They congratulated us on the incredible attack on Iran. It was an attack on something that you can't have, the nuclear facility. It's been proven now that it's been totally obliterated. If they wanted to start, they couldn't start there.
What's your read on a U.S.-Saudi meeting on Iran?
Well, look, we're in a critical time right now in our relationship in the Middle East, our relationships in the Middle East, and I'm sure that the president and the Saudi defense minister were discussing Gaza as well as Iran. The Saudi government has been very concerned about Iran's nuclear program, their support to proxy terrorists, as well as their ballistic missile program. The United States and Israel have done a lot to severely degrade Iran's military capabilities. The question is where we go from here. We're still waiting on the battle damage assessment, the disposition of the roughly 900 pounds of enriched uranium. And I'm sure we'll see that in the coming days. That will inform the Trump administration on future steps. including a negotiated deal with Iran. That's how we get to a long-term solution here, Mike. Even if Iran's program was set back a year or two, we want something permanent. That's going to take inspectors on the ground and a mistrust but verify strategy backed up by our intelligence community collection in close collaboration with our Israeli partners.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is traveling to Washington to visit the White House to meet with the president to talk about Iran and the Gaza ceasefire. What are your expectations, Dan?
Well, I think we're pretty well in lockstep with Israel. It's an extremely consequential meeting. It's a big deal for the Prime Minister to travel to the United States, and I expect the President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu to be discussing all of those issues that we just mentioned and discussing the way forward that would be serving U.S. national security interests as well as Israel's in the region.
Then there's Vladimir Putin viciously attacking Ukraine. The president sounds irritated with him. Lucas Tomlinson asked him about that. Let's play it.
Mr. President, Putin has not agreed to a ceasefire. Do you think he's mocking you?
No, I don't think he is. I think he's worried about sanctions. I do think he's very worried about sanctions. And, you know, we're determining that the Senate, as you know, has put in big sanctions, right? Big sanctions.
As a former Moscow station chief, what's your assessment?
Well, Vladimir Putin deliberately launched the largest air attack on Ukraine hours after speaking with President Trump. I think he did that to test the will of the United States. He also wants, for his own interest, to make it clear that Russia can stand on a level playing field with the United States, that the United States isn't the global superpower with the sort of influence that we would like to have, that maybe we aren't the most reliable ally for a partner like Ukraine in an existential fight for their independence against this barbaric Russian invasion. I think that's what's behind Vladimir Putin's bombing campaign, that as well as the fact that he'd like to topple the government in Ukraine and install a puppet regime. At stake here for the United States, it's not just Ukraine at the point of attack in Europe, defending Europe from a Russian onslaught. It's the $1 trillion worth of trade we enjoy with Europe. And if Russia were to cast a shadow over that by conquering Ukraine, we'd be in tough shape economically. So there are all sorts of reasons right now where I think the president is re-examining providing Ukraine with those Patriot air defense missiles and other military assistance, re-examining Senator Lindsey Graham's proposal for secondary sanctions on Russia, all the things we could do to make it more difficult for Russia to prosecute this war, potentially bring them to the negotiating table.
Always interesting analysis from Dan Hoffman. Dan, thanks very much.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.